Let's bring in Assistant Professor of Political Science at Northwestern University, Dani Gilbert. Dani, thank you so much for speaking with us. As you just heard, the Israeli government is set to approve a deal to free about 50 hostages in exchange for a 5-day ceasefire and the release of Palestinian women and children in those Israeli jails. This is really the first time the Israeli cabinet has voted on a deal like this. Talk to us about how significant this is.
It's tremendously significant, not only for its context in the fact that Israel has long dealt with hostage-taking scenarios and how this plays into the history of hostage-taking between Israel and Palestinian militants, but also for the families and for the hostages who will be hopefully coming out of captivity. There have been over 240 people who were kidnapped on October 7th. So far, 5 people have come out of captivity, and it would be amazing news for these hostages and for their families to see another 50 more come home.
So many people taken hostage. What are the next steps? How long could it take before we see all of the hostages released?
So the hostage negotiations will always be unfolding on 2 tracks. There is the content of the hostage negotiations in terms of who is released and what other concessions might be made, as well as the process of negotiations. That's the logistics, figuring out pauses in the fighting and how people can actually come out of captivity safely. And both of those elements are quite difficult in ongoing hostilities with the IDF incursion and war in Gaza. And so it might take some time, first of all, just to even see these 50 hostages get released, if they are, and then negotiations will continue to see if any more of the hostages come home. But given that this first set of negotiations will be focusing on some of the most vulnerable hostages, the women, the children, probably some of the sick and elderly hostages as well, it then becomes much harder to negotiate for some of the remaining hostages who are men and Israeli soldiers.
More than 200 people. Now, Dani, have you seen a hostage crisis like this before?
I've never seen a hostage crisis like this before. There are certain elements that can make hostage crises and hostage negotiations incredibly difficult. And this particular hostage crisis has all of them. It has hundreds of people from several dozen different countries who are being held by lots of different perpetrators as well. It's not only Hamas, but another Palestinian militant organization called Islamic Jihad who is holding hostages, as well as individual Palestinians in Gaza who are keeping some of these Israelis captive in their homes as well. And so lots of different perpetrators, the fact that it's in an urban environment during ongoing hostilities, and the fact that the hostages have such a range and diversity of not only where they're from, but their ages and their vulnerability. So this is, in fact, completely unprecedented.
That, of course, has implications for those negotiations. So many different groups involved. Dani, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.